All right, welcome back to the Peggy Smedley Show. We are coming to you live from CES 2018, and we've had some great guests, and I'm excited to welcome Pavan Mathew, who is the Director of Automotive Business Development and Insurance at LexisNexis. Welcome.
Thank you, Peggy. Happy to be here.
So let's talk about, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do in the company a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So my responsibility is global business development for global automakers. So what that means is we LexisNexis, sit between insurance carriers and global automakers. And my job is to bring the automakers into our telematics exchange.
So recently you guys conducted a study to tell us what's going on there, and there's a lot of things happening in this space right now with what happens between when you talk about insurance and the automakers, because there's a lot of aggressive things happening. Talk about that study and what you've been finding.
Absolutely. We do the study annually, and this is our 2017 usage-based insurance study. So what it basically does is we like to keep a pulse on what consumers feel about these services and what their awareness level is. And it's very important because, as consumers have greater awareness, they have better adoption. And that really helps us to scale the UBI adoption and bring that to marketplace.
And when we talk about usage-based insurance, UBI right now, are we finding that consumers, and in this study, that consumers are feeling more accepting? Because right now we look at usage-based insurance in general, that consumers are pretty much happy or unhappy with the way things are, that we're finding that there's all this data out there, and we see what Progressive has done and years, millions of points that they've been able to collect and things like that, consumers are feeling that the information that's gathered on them is giving them great insights, and they're getting the best rates, they're getting the best insights. What are they telling you from your study?
Absolutely, absolutely. So consumers are highly engaged in the insurance process. So insurance is quite expensive for consumers. So
that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about price points, after buying a vehicle and fuel, insurance is the third biggest cost. So anything they can do and any control you give them to control that cost is very beneficial. So once they understand that the vehicles have these capabilities to be able to collect data and manage and give them feedback on how they drive, and they understand that if they share that with the carrier, that can create substantial cost savings, they understand it. Because frankly, they've been conditioned with non-related industries. So if you think about Fitbit, if you think about retail reward programs, you think about airlines, these all are data collection programs, and in the end they succeed because they're very clear on how the consumer benefits. So if the message is very clear in terms of what the benefit is to the consumer, they're very willing, and they frankly seek it out. The challenge really for the industry is have a clear message and bring that value proposition in a very clear and concise way to the consumers.
So in doing that, they will accept things like ODBs. They will accept those devices that are tracking them, telling them whether they're doing hard brakes and things like that to improve their driving behavior. So that is what's happening, and more, because over time, with the way we've had insurance, it's been by our age, it's not by our driving habits, it's been very standard, male, female, those kind of traditional standards, and I think we've always felt like that's why insurance has been very high.
Absolutely. It's a very good point, and I think as you mentioned, there are several methodologies to collect the data. So you mentioned OBD2 devices that plug into the vehicle. There's applications, and eventually this will move into what I say is almost seamless. So make it simple for the consumers. The vehicles will come equipped with the technology and the hardware that's able to collect the data. And what we're showcasing here at CES is making that contextual. So what that basically means is the consumers have to do very little in the sense that they don't have to receive an OBD device, they don't have to search out a port, make it very simple and give them feedback while they're in the vehicle in terms of what their driving score is, what they can do to get better, and what offers are available to them. So again, it's really about making it simple, making it relevant, and making it real for the customer.
So we're looking at these connected cars right now that have this ability to give drivers feedback and more responsive if they're getting the right information that says, look, we're giving you driving information, and as a result of that, you're going to get a reduction in your insurance based on the information that a UBI is going to provide for you. And consumers are saying, I will let you track me if I'm going to see a benefit from that. And you're seeing more and more consumers saying, okay, I'll do that. But are insurance companies really responsive to that? Are they seeing results from that? Because right now, what we've been seeing is consumers saying they're not seeing reduction in insurance. Are insurance companies truly saying, we're going to live up to that?
Absolutely, that's a great question. And yeah, so really the question there, Peggy, is scale. So the market needs scale, and even from the insurance company side, they need to see a broader adoption rate. So for example, when you call your agent, so if the market continues to be at either a certain brand or a certain mechanism, and it's very difficult for the insurance company to create standardized process, standardized quoting system. But they are believers in the long term that this will become table stakes, very much like credit score has become table stakes in getting your premiums. So they believe in the future, and with the OEMs installing TCUs, telematics control unit, they believe that this will be ubiquitous. Now it will take a few years, but they do see that eventually this will be table stakes.
Will this, it's kind of a tough question, I'm sure you might not be able to answer this. It seems to me, just like what we're seeing, it's almost as if we're going to kind of change and put some people out of business. Over time, if you have these connected cars, you have this UBI capabilities, why do you need an insurance rep?
Good question. Yeah, it's still, at the end of the day, there will continue to be a population that has a relationship, right? Has a relationship with an agent, needs, and in some cases people have very unique needs, right? So many cases these insurance policies are bundled. So many folks have their home or life, they may have a recreation vehicle that's bundled with their automotive. So there are some unique needs that will have a need for someone to bundle a package. So you're absolutely right. There is several businesses, transactions moving to the digital world. So that will have some impact, and you will see some shift in the industry like we've seen in some other industries. But I think at least in the near future, there will continue to be a need for someone to guide a unique insurance customer through that process.
I mean, it's almost like the travel agent. We're using less and less travel agents. I mean, it's a transition. We see as technology advances, industries are using less and less. What are the biggest hurdles you're seeing that consumers have to overcome with this? Or is it the consumers, is it the insurance industry? Or is it, as time, we're starting to see that more and more connected cars have it, and it's just as a part of everything else. It's a part of your connected car, it's a part of, as we start going, the next generation just sees it as a part of their way. It's that transition period that we have to go through from our generation to the next generation. They just see it, it's not a matter of will it happen, it's just when will it happen.
Right, no, that's a great question. So yes, I think, your first question was, what is the biggest challenge? And I would say, if I were to say focus on one area, it's really back to awareness. So in our study, when you ask consumers in terms of what is in their vehicle, and only about 15% are really completely aware of all the feature sets in the vehicle, right? It takes certain time, and even then, throughout a life cycle ownership, you'll find consumers that still struggle with pairing a Bluetooth phone. So it's really around creating awareness of the technology and being very clear in what that message is. And I think luckily in our space, there are some unrelated industries that are getting the consumers conditioned with sharing the data, but I always come back to make the value clear. And I think any industry, any business that makes the value very clear to the consumer, they find success.
This next generation that I'm talking about will be a part of what they're used to.
Right.
Do you have that transition period of they don't like being tracked? Or is that struggle saying, I don't want mom and dad to know how I'm driving? Is that transition part of that?
Right. No, it's a great question. My feeling is almost this this new generation, to me, almost seems like they're screaming to be tracked, right? If you think about social media and Twitter, and I'm here, I'm there, I'm doing this, but the key there is giving them control, right? So if you give them control on how they want to be tracked and how that's being utilized, well, again, you'll find success.
The point is they like to be tracked about where they are when they want to,
right.
But on that part, they don't want to be tracked because mom and dad know exactly everything. And, you know, I've been going too fast here. I'm speeding at night. I don't want mom and dad to know that part of it. There's moments of that tracking that they're not particularly fond of.
But this generation is also very smart, right? So they could play the game of saying, look, mom and dad, right? If you give me this particular type of vehicle, track me. Right, so there's this negotiation of so track me, but
if you give me that Mustang,
you got it right. I'm trackable. So again, it's back to giving them some control, and it could be a poker game. And I always, back to the privacy question of, you'll have it at our booth. One of the first questions, about privacy, and say, look, you have young drivers, so there's benefits to both ends. The young folks can use this as a bargaining chip, and the parents can use this as, hey, this is a requirement for you to get the keys.
So are there key partnerships that you have here at the show that are making a difference this year?
Absolutely. So we're very proud of our partnership with Mitsubishi Motors. We have a booth here and we're showcasing how we have put together technology to use the Android Auto platform to pull data from the vehicle and score that and bring that to life to the consumer. This where they're seeing what their driving score is, how it's being shared, and what they can do to be better drivers, and also adding some gamifications. So when they hit certain thresholds, Mitsubishi can offer them certain rewards, and they can also have what we call leaderboard. So within a family, how they're doing in terms of their score, or within a group of people. So again, everything goes back to making the offer very relevant and making it fun.
So is this offered through you? Is it offered through Mitsubishi? How does that all work?
Absolutely, yes. So we are behind the scenes company. So we sit in the middle of Mitsubishi and the insurance carriers. So everything we do, we branded Mitsubishi, and frankly, Mitsubishi is giving us a direction. The requirements come from Mitsubishi, and what is their customer experience, and what is the journey for a Mitsubishi driver. So we manage that to bring the products to life.
So how many partnerships do you have right now in the auto industry? I assume you're continuing to grow with these right now.
Yes. So Mitsubishi is the announcement that we have made. We have 2 other POCs that we're working with the OEMs. When those POCs are complete, we'll make those announcements. Right now they're in development.
So that's really what's exciting, is you get to have these companies these automakers that start to see the value going to market and seeing that when you have these, that it's changing a dynamic in the automotive industry of saying, look, we're offering something that as a car company, you can play gamification. There's things here that you're incentivizing families to do things a little differently, to think outside the box.
Absolutely. And what's impressive and unique about the OEMs is they have learned a lot from other consumer electronics companies, Apple and Google and many of the companies that are showcasing here. And each OEM is very unique in their approach and in their journey of how they want that experience to be. Some of the premium brands, they call it even at a UBI level, white glove service, in terms of absolutely ensuring that this experience is positive to neutral. So it's very unique and very encouraging, and frankly, that's where we can differentiate ourselves in terms of giving that flexibility to the OEMs to design very specific programs that meets their brand guidelines.
Well, I think it's exciting what you guys are doing. Where can our viewers and listeners learn more about what you guys are doing? What's your URL?
Absolutely. LexisNexis RiskSolutions.com.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, well, viewers, we are out of time for this segment, but if you want to learn more, anything, ask any questions, you can tweet at me at Peggy_Smedley or ConnectedWMag. And remember, every Tuesday we are live at 12 Central PM. That's the regular time for the Peggy Smedley Show. But for this time, we've been coming to you live right here at CES, broadcasting our live Twitter feed, which has really been exciting. We've been showing you a whole lot of things that have been going on here. It's been a kind of a crazy day with power outages and interviewing some really amazing guests, but we want you to stick around. We've got more to come. So remember, this is the Peggy Smedley Show, the podcasting voice of IoT and relevant technology. And remember, with great technology comes great responsibility. We'll be right back right after this quick break.